I'm going to give a quick overview of the React router. So the React router allows us to control the rendering of different components based on the URL up here. So if we had a link to, say, an about page like this one, the React would basically be able to add about to the end of this URL and render the about component, and then we could go back. So routing is basically controlling what is being viewed based on the URL request. So since the last video, I've just updated a few things. I've updated the about to use and put some information in here. I've also created a background container which uses the theme values, and I've also put that in the app itself. So the reason we can't see the app itself is because the container that is holding the about page is CyberDuck. So the container that is holding the about page is with absolute positioning. It's 100% width and 100% height, so it's covering up the entire screen. So quickly, what I'm going to do is just to basically get our app back up. So I'm going to take this about and comment it out. Let's refresh it here. So as you can see, that container that I mentioned before is on this page as well, and we can just flick back and forth by changing the theme up here, which we did in the last movie. So we want to create a link at the top of this page, which basically says, learn more about this product, and it's going to take us to another page. But we don't have a web server, so we can't basically say if a GET request comes in for this route, render this page instead. But React gives us the ability to be able to do that just entirely on the front end. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So back in our project, we just need to install the React router by going npm I react dom, router -dom. And we have it. So in the top of our app file, we need to import a few things. So we're going to use destructuring here to just import just a couple of things, and we're going to import it from the React router DOM. First thing we're going to import is the hash router. So if we had a web server, we could import the browser router, but we're going to import the hash router because that's what's going to work with static files like we've set up with the index.html. And I'm going to import that as router. So if you were using this same code on a web server, you could use the same component because we're going to use a router component, but just instead of saying hash router as router, say browser router as router. So we're going to also import a switch, the route, and the link item right here. So if we go back down to our app, the root component of the router needs to be the router component. The only thing that can really be above it is this theme context provider. So just underneath that, I'm going to write router. Inside the router, we need the switch. So the switch is basically what allows us to switch between different routes. So I'm going to copy these closing tags and move them right to the end. So in our switch component, we're able to identify different routes that we want it to use by using the route tag. And the route tag basically takes an argument which tells it, well, what path am I using to identify this route? So if I type in exact, that's telling it I want to match this path exactly. If you get anything else, don't render this. Path equals / so the root path here, and I'm going to wrap everything that we currently have inside that route. Right here. And I'm just going to delete this commented out about. Right. Go npm run build again. If I go back here, you'll notice that we get a hash and a slash on the end of our URL. Don't worry about that, it's not breaking anything, but now we basically have a router. So we can create new routes that's going to serve up something completely different. So if we go back to my app here, underneath this route, I'm going to create a new route, exact path equals /about, and in here I'm going to render the about page right here. So basically if we're requesting just the /index route, render the color picker application. Otherwise, if we have the /about route, render the about component. So let's just go back to the browser here. Let's refresh. If I type in about, we get the about page that we defined in our about component. So we need a way in the user interface to link between these two, and that is the link item that we also imported from the React router. So we're going to use that now. So if I go down to just above the average color, I reckon, under here, right here, I'm going to type a link. So I type it by going link, and the link element takes one property, and that's where you're going to. So I'm going to the /about route, and then the children of the link is basically the button. So I'm going to say about this project. So now if I go back to here, I actually need to go back. As you can see, I have this about this project link now, and if I click that, it's going to take me to the about page. So I need to put a link on the about page to take us back. So if I go import link from React Router DOM, now you'll notice that I'm only importing the link this time because it's all I need here. So I'm going to put it right under the heading, and I'm going to write link to here, and I'm going to say view color picker right here. So as you can see, we've got the view the color picker link here, and it works. It takes us back and forth, but this one is still purple. So we kind of want it to be white for it to be readable. Oh, well, we want it to be dynamic based on the theme. So we can also pass other attributes to the link component, and one of those is a style component. So I'm going to type style equals, right, color theme.foreground, because we have that context available to us, we may as well use it. Now if I go back, as you can see, it's updated the color of it to be representative of the theme. If I go back to the color picker here, if I change the theme to light, I go back, as you can see, it's black because it's picking that up from the theme. So to recap, we created a route in the top level of our app component, which we're rendering to the DOM, and we created an about route, which basically means that when we go to the about path, we want to render the about component, and when we go to just the index /path, we want to render the application itself. We created links using the link element that's included in the React router to basically take us back and forth between these two pages, and we've added an attribute to the link to basically control the way that it appears. And that's the React router.